of these tapes at home. So
you have the text already there?
yes, I have.
Already this word sochan, and there's different ways you can pronounce it, but I think sochan works for the way he rhymes it. Kohan and sochan.
Kohan or Sochan
Yeah.
also
Could
are
be either way.
together, yes.
And you have to realize the pronunciation. This is, around 1300, certain vowels change into modern Persian. So we're before 1300. All these nakare, E would be pronounced A. I mean, there are linguists who've studied this. Doesn't matter if we pronounce it like modern Persian, it makes it easier to understand. But so things like rhymes will sometimes look strange. So anyway, the first line here about Sochan, already he's playing. We have in the second Mesra 3 times. Sochan asked. So the first part, on che'u ham, no ast o ham, kohanast. And there we have a kind of final foot, which is 3 kohan ast, short, long. And it corresponds to sochan ast, short, long. But then what you might call the chabar is on the beginning of the second mesra. On che'u ham, no asto ham, kohan ast, so chan ast o. That's the first foot. Then in sochan, sochanast. So, of course, these are all different shades of meaning of sochan, that it is a matter for discussion, an amr, or
it's also means zaban even.
Yeah. No, it has all these nice meanings.
Yes.
So, and then it goes on. Maybe you should read. And,
I will.
Oh, Farimesh.
آنچه او هم نو است و هم کهن است سخن است و در این سخن است ز آفرینش نزار مادر کن.
That's a tricky one. It's modar kon. This is kon from Arabic. God says be. Kana yakunu, not the kon. Kuni. So, when you have an ezafe construction, we often think of it as ketab man, of me. But it can also be Shah, Reza, He Pahlavan Bozorg. It can function to say what we call in English technically a noun in apposition. Shohrab, the Iranian, it's not of the Iranian, it's like saying something in a different way. So that's what we have here. We have mother, and it has an ezafe, the mother kon. It should be translated not as the mother of kon, but the mother kon, because the force which creates everything is God's word kon, and she's the modar, is that kon. And then the azofarinesh, meaning in a way from all of creation, she didn't give birth to anything that was better. Chubtad as sochan. It's the greatest thing in all creation. Zofarinesh, nazad, emo, zofarinesh, nazad, demo, darekon.
We can also say Maudar Kon. I mean,
Maudar Kon?
Yeah, because we say then in the second, it said هیچ فرزند خوبتر ز سخن.
Let's see, Za'afarinesh. Za'afarinesh is the first foot. Nazad demo. Yeah, Darkon. Let's see now. Each, because the rhyme will have to be the same number of syllables as the first rhyme.
That's right.
Each, شفر هیچ فرزند خوب بهتر زسخون. So it needs really 3 syllables for the last foot. Zasuchon. So we need ezofe mo dare kon. That's why it is an ezofe.
Mhm.
It's true that you often can have a compound word, you don't need the ezofe. But here we see, when we get to the second, zasuchon. Hit shefar zan de khub betar zasuchon.
این شیوه مادر نزاد و این چیزا خیلی کهن هم از پهلویه. برای که من توی یکی از نوشته های شما حالا میگن بوزرجمهر که همون بزرگمهر باشه که خوندیم راجع بهش تو بخش فردوسی، وزیر دانای زمان ساسانی بوده. این همونی بوده که میگن تخت نرد رو هم میگن این به اصطلاح آفریده، حالا از روی شطرنجی که هندی‌ها درست کرده بودن.
I'm just thinking how nice it is to hear you speaking Persian. I haven't heard this for the last 2 months in Greece.
Okay.
It's fine.
Interesting. So تا کنون ز مادر نزاد یه چیز کلیشه‌ای شده دیگه، یعنی خیلی استفاده شده.
Yeah, this poem is very famous.
آره خیلی مشهوره. آره توی نمونه‌های دیگه بسیار به کار برده شده.
But it's interesting that in a sense, God, in the Islamic view, is not supposed to be compared to anything human, but they attribute language to him, kalam. And the kalam al-Khuda is really anthropomorphic, but they don't think of it that way. Language is sort of spiritual and so on. But the idea that the greatest thing in creation is actually speech. This is already a big idea. And of course a poet says that because this is his domain. He's a sochan var. And it's his profession and all that kind of thing. But also he's playing with how it preserves important things. It's a yadagari. And it... but anyway, let's read and we'll talk.
تا نگویی سخنوران مردند، سر به آب سخن فرو بردند.
Now that's about as simple as you can make a sentence in Persian. It's all clear, it's not difficult, aruz. Ta nagui sukhanvaran mordand. Sar be ezofe, it's part of the first foot. Sar be sukhan foru borda. And yet it's already mysterious in a sense that the goodness or the skill, really, the great quality of the people who can handle language, they don't die.
True.
And their head simply goes down into the water of Sochan. And then you don't know where this is going, but in the next line, it's like you speak and the fish, they raise their head from the water. That's very unusual.
چون بری نام هر که را خواهی، سر برآرد زاب چون ماهی.
So it may be chune mahi because we don't like long u and then 2 consonants and still another long vowel. So there's a tendency to put in what sounds like an ezofe, but it's like a little cushion. Chune mahi. Sad baro rad za'al be chun. Sad baro rad. Sad baro rad. Za'al be chun. Ne. Chun. Za'al Be'Chun, Dored, Za'al Be'Chun. Yeah, we don't need, well, maybe some of that. See how the first half often gives you a better clue. Chun Bari Now is the first foot. Had Now Had Ke Rao Hahi. Yeah, so it's Mahi. It's Chun Mahi, like you said. Right. So he raises his head like a fish out of the water.
سخنی کو چون روح بی عیب است خازن گنج خانه غیب است.
This has as en fait خازن گنج خانه غیب است. We have Abe est, but we have the be Abe est. So it's not exactly parallel, the Gabe est and the Abe est, but it's like Sochan I Ku Choru He Bi Abe est. But the second half is Cha Zene Ganj E Cha Nehe Gabe est.
این هی که میاد در واقع با اون بی عیبه جور در میاد یه جورایی.
Yes, but it's, again, having a feeling or getting really used to this aruz makes you appreciate how it's not easy to write this way. You have to, as soon as you position the word somewhere else, it changes whether there's two syllables and makes the thing changes quantity. Anyway. Then there's a mistake in my test. Kesehe na shenide. It should be not. We have na shin. Yeah, that's
ناشنیده
so
درست.
it's kesehe. There's an ezafe. Kesehe na is the first foot. Shenide u dana. These are the qualities of the Sochan Var. He knows the story no one has heard. He knows to recite the book that hasn't been written yet.
جالب اینجاست من این ناشنیده رو اصلا ناشنیده خوندم به خاطر اینکه من همجوری که میخونم معمولا واژگانی که بس میان هستن اونا رو درست میخونم و همون شیوهی که باید باشه. حتما شما هم وقتی انگلیسی میخونید هم اگه یه اشتباهی باشه به راحتی میتونید درستش رو بخونید و برید جلو. این حالت اونجوری داره برای من البته نمیدونم.
And the aruz, the first foot, in some ways is the hardest because if you get that, you're closer to figuring out the rest. But here you wouldn't know automatically that you have an ezafeh. Kesehe. Kes is, you got the tashdid, so that's long. Kesehe no. And the same thing for no. Mehe no. Nebesh te u chonad. He donad, he chonad. And this doesn't mean he reads it to himself. A lot of, in the Middle Ages, a lot of reading was out loud. People reading to an audience or a servant reading to his master. So then we get a command here, Ben Gad. Ben Garaz had Che'ol Farid Chodai. Look at everything that God created. Look at everything around you in the world. Tal, Azul, Juz, Sochan, Che, Monad, Benjai. And what out of all that remains in place? Yeah, everything passes away. Of course, this is an old motif in many literatures. The old Germanic literature, you patronize the poet because you are a warrior and he will make your big heroic deeds remembered forever. Otherwise, it passes away. No one remembers anything. Time wipes out memory. And then we have the same یادگاری.
این خیلی قشنگه. یادگاری که از آدمی زاده است سخن است، آن دیگر همه باد است. خیلی قشنگ. من اینو خونده بودم توی موقعی که پیش پال بودم. یه کتابی داره راجع به پرژن پویزی نوشته، به هلندیه. بعد این تیکه توش بود با ترجمه هلندی، هم تیکه‌ای که الان خوندیم. یادگاری که از آدم زاده است.
And the E on the یادگاری is because of the K. این چیز ای که. Because it's like, and that takes us to the سخنست as the Yisod. So human beings, those who have come down from Adam, the only way they can hang on to some history or some knowledge from events or progress in terms of knowledge is having language to put it into. Hang on to it. I was in Greece, I was reading this. We have a work from the 1100s, same time as Nezami, by a female who was the wife of the emperor, Anna Komnene. And she begins her history about her father. I'm writing this because Chronos, time, is a river that flows and takes everything away with it. The small things and the big things all disappear at the same time. And I want to make a yadigar, basically, of the deeds of my father. Her father was Alexios, the emperor, who, when he was 14, was witnessing the Battle of Manzikert, 1071, when the Seljuks went into what is going to become Turkey, beginning of the Turkification. And this is a book-size account about our father's period of ruling. Very poetic opening.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get Jath Kon Kaz Nabati O Kani Tal Be'akli O Tal Be'i Vani. And we still haven't reached the main verb, which is Baz Don. Bazedani. So make an effort so that you know ta bazdani chi ke, but the kaz phrases is like a parenthesis. Learn from these different levels of, there was a belief in the chain of being, both in Christianity and Islam. You start with the minerals, then you have the plants, then you have animals, and then you have man, and then you have angels, and everything in between. These are like marateb. So from what you see in the world of plants and the world of minerals, or what has to do with reason and what has to do with being an animal, alive,
and humans,
that vujud anchist ke. By looking at all those other things, learn what in existence is it which lives on forever. So this Arabic phrase here, it also has to work as kal bad dod daher. That's the first
ما تو
one.
فارسی میخونیمش که ابدال در رو استفاده زیاد میشه تو فارسی، نه تنها توی شعر، توی سخن معمولی هم استفاده
It's
میشه.
interesting how he makes the ke. Abad is a short, but he's using it as a long. Kal bad do daher. Had میتواند زیست.
ابدالدهر. Yeah.
But these are the two lines are actually all one structure, as make the effort from these different categories of being that you learn what in existence is that thing which is eternal and can live forever. Because very often the line is complete as a thought, one line. Occasionally it rolls over into the next line. Tehad kechod rao, chonan kebod shenacht. So anyone who himself, as he knows, as he really is, this is bud shenacht, how he was, how his existence really is, tal abad sad bezen degi afrah. Forever he will raise his head in life, almost like the head of the Sochan Baran that comes out of the water like a fish, but so we're playing with the idea of how Sochan gives abadi or preserves things forever. So then fa ni an showed. So the previous thing was this is how you become, that you come to have an unending life. But then fani is the opposite. Fani an showed ke nach shechish nachonad.
بعد نخوان باشه دیگه.
نخوان.
آره تو باقی ماند میاد.
این نقش خان باقی ماند. But everyone who has Khan has read, because a naksh can be something that's decorative, but it can be a symbol that somehow has a meaning, and when you understand that, then you're on the road to Bari. Bari Fani, An Shod, Kenach Shechish Nachan. He didn't really almost decipher it, be able to read what its meaning is.
بعدش که ادامه میگه چون تو خود را شناختی به درست نگذری گرچه بگذری ز نخست.
And again at the end we have 3 syllables. Bedorost is all one foot, the final foot. Zanochost. Then the nagzari, garche bogzari, zanat nochost. And zanat nochost means earlier. You passed away at some earlier stage first. So these are all original ways of saying that by having poetry about you, you last.
Yeah, it took me a long time to get into it, and now when I read it now with you, then I feel better, because it takes so much time, because it wasn't so clear for me the way he made these poesy, or what it called.
Yeah, these images that he's explaining. It shows how what is very conventional usually, in the opening of poems, you praise the ruler and so on. But a good poet can make all these cliches, he makes them interesting just by the way he puts the words together. Shun tochod rao shena cheti bedoros shena cheti bedoros nagzari gar chebug zari zanochos. We have the largest foot is the first foot, like chun, long, toe, short, chod, ra, both long. Chun to chod, ra, first foot. Nagzari Gad, first foot, 4 syllables. Then comes short, long, short, long. Shetna, cheti. So when you see that the chet on a lot of verbs have that kind of structure, and when you know that you're in the second foot and you need short, long, you'll quickly get used to saying, oh, the cheti, I can put in the short between the letters. And then you might say, but then I still have these other syllables. Oh, but I can add 3 syllables at the end. Bet, do, rost. Zat, no, host. Neg, zari, gad. Che, bog, zar, e. Short, long, zano, host. Then we have a plural of people. The only reason he's using a plural is because he needs these syllables for the meter. Von, kassan, kaz. Vojude be. Chabaran. It's another 3-syllable ending, 1 unit. Chabaran. So people who, when it comes to existence, are without chabar.
Without knowing.
No knowledge. Zin. Daro. Yan. No, as zin dar. This is the word for door. From this door they enter, from that door they exit. They don't, nothing else happens. They just come in one door and go out the other.
دقیقا ما تو فارسی یه چیزایی به صورت جوک میگیم، مثلا میگیم یارو الاغ زاده میشه خر از این دنیا میره، یعنی دوتاشون یکی، یعنی هم درست.
But again, I mean, it's all these little details are very original. What if you and I had to sit down and say something, give some images about speech? I mean, what could we come up with? Well, we have some logical stuff. Speech is useful, but this is the essence of a certain kind of poetry, that you play with original images out of relatively ordinary things. The door, you come in the door, you go out the door. It's then we have Ru Zane Bi, it's the first foot. Obar, Odar.
رو زنه میگیم ما تو
رو، رو زنه بی اوبار و در بیدود. Just 2 syllables for the final. So now that's a door again. So we have window without dust and door without smoke. What does this mean? You're standing outside the house, you have a window and you have a door, and you're looking in. And if you have a window that has no kobar, you can see through it. If you have a door, you can look through it if there's no smoke. But then what good is that if it's bi-kobar and bidud? If that off a top, sud nist for certain people. They don't. The sun makes no difference. Kas nadidad. That off the top.
ما میتونیم بگیم در آفتاب هم میتونیم بگیم اگه میخوره بهش. در آفتاب یعنی در آفتاب دره میتونیم هم بگیم اگه لازم باشه.
Okay, let's see. Kas nadinad is the first foot. Dad. Oh, we have dad. Dad is short. All fetab is the second foot. Dad. Dad. All fetab. Chesud. And it's almost as if it's a agar kas nadinad chesud, but he compresses it. Hast chosh nud. When we see the had, and we're not sure here whether to put in a cushion after chosh nud, the had kas as. When we see the had is long because it's followed by the cat. Oh. then we have to go back and say maybe there's a cushion after Khoshnud. Hast Khoshnud de har kas az delechish. That's a 3-syllable final foot. Na konad kas mo rat golechish.
بعد گلخیش باشه چون دلخیش.
Gelechish, yeah. So man is made of gel, and if you don't cultivate emorat, work on your gel, like you might keep a garden or work the mud, the dirt, but people don't. Nakonat kas emoratigili. So hast Khoshnud har kas as delechish. All people are happy with their self. They think, I'm okay. I don't have to be better. Not good enough. Nakonat kas emorat gelichish. They don't work on their... And the gel is interesting as an image because we're created in Adam, but also gel is considered chaksah. It's low, it's dirty. Yeah. So we should be trying to do something about our gel.
این بیت جالبیش اینه که میگه هر کسی در حال من همجوری میکنم هر کسی در بهانه تیز هوش هست بعد میگه که کس نگوید که دوغ من ترش است. این چیزیه که ما الان توی چیز روزمره هنوز خیلی به کار میبریم توی فارسی. آره این as a saying این در واقع یه زبانزد فارسیه که خیلی کاربرد زیاد داره. میگه کسی نمیگه که ماستم ترشه. این اصلا خیلی عادی شده دیگه. من اصلا نمیدونستم نظامی هم چیزی رو سروده. جالب بود برای من.
They still have dough in Turkey it's called ayran. It's a very liquid. You drink it. It's a little bit sour, but it's nice. Very fresh if it's hot. And it's still called dough.
آره چون دوغای ایران ترشن. واقعا ترش هستن.
It's almost like milk.
آره اینجا هم هست توی آلبرتاین ولی اصلا مزه‌ای نداره این دوغی که هست. ولی مال ما همیشه ترش آره.
So هر کسی در بهانه تیز هوش است. So what's a bahane tease? It's like you've got a clever.
تیز هوش با همه.
تیز هوش. Yeah, right. هر کسی در بهانه تیز هوش است. هر کسی در بهانه تیز هوش است.
تیز هوش همون تیز هوش ما میگیم تیز هوش همون تیزگیر هم میتونیم بگیم تیزگیر هم ما داریم همونه خوندیم توی
So in the excuse everyone's very clever. It's affecting their hosh. It's tease hosh. Quick to come up with an answer to excuse something.
من بهانه رو رفتم توی به خدا نگاه کردم معانی مثلا معنی مناسبت هم میده. اینجا فکر کنم مناسبت شاید منظورشه. تا عذر و دستاویز هم البته میشه گفت دستاویز اونم فارسیه. عذر بیجا هم نوشته معنی میده. ایراد، بازخواست بیجا، دلیل، سبب همه اینا رو معنی کرده. آخر سر گفته که مناسبت هم معنی میده. حالا باید دید این کدومش منظور هست. این بهانه‌ای که اینجا آورده هر کسی در بهانه تیز خوش است کس نگوید که دوغ من ترش است.
Okay, and the next line is a little peculiar.
درسته.
But baleg from Arabic
Mature.
means you're mature, but also means you're accomplished, you're skilled, your maturity makes you do things better too. Because the verb in Arabic, balagha, is to reach the goal, to arrive at what you want. So the balaghan, the people who have balagani ke, bolge, and I think this is bolge korand. So bolge is adequate, being enough, being sufficient. Again, it's the same root to reach what's necessary. and the بالغانی که بلغه کارند سر به جذر اصلا. Jazr means a root, but mathematically.
ما میگیم جذر تو فارسی.
Jazr. Jazr asan. I don't understand. It's in English. It's called a surd. It's a kind of number that you can divide in certain ways, like some technical aspect of mathematics. That's difficult.
آره اینجا من بازم تو ده خدا نگاه کردم اصلا اینجوری توضیح داده شاید برنامه‌شون ریاضی برابر جذر اصلا بعد گفته اسم ادبی در عروض از همین که ما میخونیم همین شیوه از نوشته
بهور بهور شعر
بر وزن فا
بهور is the sea بحر بهور. That's the way of saying that the meter.
و این سیستم رو توضیح داده گفته که اسم هم میتونه باشه بعد گفته جمع سوم قدیمی ویژگی کسی که گوشش نمیشنود کر و ناشنواست
He's deaf.
گنگم میشه گفت اینا تصاویری که ازش داده.
And of course this means really that he can't hear, and it got used in mathematics when you have a certain kind of number that is difficult to divide equally. If you have a number like 9, you can divide it into 3 parts, 3. But you have certain other numbers, if you try to divide it, you get fractions, and it's difficult. But here it's just being a man who is the Balagan, people with experience, they don't waste their time with the Jazra Asan, a puzzle which you're not going to be able to figure out. It's too difficult. So, کس نگوید سر به جذر اصم فرو نارن. They don't bring their head down into this. How can I make sense of this جذر اصم? صاحب مایه, someone who has excellence or skill. دوربین باشد, can look ahead. مایه چون کم, but when this excellence is little, بود چونین مایه چون کم بود چون این باشد. Chonin means then it's also can. That if the person doesn't have much ma'yeh, kind of the result is also chonin. Yeah, it's can. Mad, bon, mo, yeran, gal, all hast. De bon, mo, yeran, gal. Go hast.
شحنه باید که دزد در راه است.
So a man who's got awareness and who's durbin knows that you have to have a shahne. Shahne, one meaning of shahne is he's the head of the police in the city.
ما تو فارسی داریم واژه فارسیش داروغه است. همون داروغه تو فارسی. فارسی کهن زیاد استفاده شده. همون رئیس پلیس دیگه درسته.
Yeah. And here, of course, it means protection. A certain guy who will keep the peace, or boyad is necessary because does that road has there are thieves on the road waiting for you. So you need to be accompanied either by the shahneh, or the shahneh has to go out and catch them or whatever. So then, Khajeh Chin, Kenafe Bar Konad, who carries as merchandise this nafe, this perfume thing. Now the nafe is actually a part, it's like the belly button.
ما میگیم ناف دیگه تو فارسی. ناف. همین ناف. من فکر کنم از این واژه‌های ایندو اروپیان
باشه. It comes from the animal.
آره ولی از نظر استراکچر ساختارش مثلا ناخل، ناخون، ناخل، نیول ناف ما داریم فارسی برای این و این هر دوش فکر کنم یه حالا که
Yeah,
این دو
right.
اروپایی باید داشته باشه.
old word connected.
آره.
And so now you have a Chinese merchant who's carrying this very precious substance out of which you make perfume. This is extremely concentrated, and then you do things to it and you make usable perfume. And he bar konad. Now this is I don't know, you have the same text as me. It's meshk raw, it should be. It looks like mesh
درست.
as.
البته مشگره ای جان. مشگر کسی که
I
مش
think
رو
it's meshk raw zangafe hesar konad.
انگوژه.
Yeah, angoje.
ولی
Because we need a dative.
درسته، ولی مشگر کسی که مثلا یه گر که میاد کسی که با مشک سر کار داره دیگه، یعنی کسی که با مشک کار میکنه.
But what we want is that this other thing, this engagé, which is a bad smell, you use it to disguise the meshk raw for the meshk, so that if someone looks in your bags like a thief, it smells terrible and he doesn't look any further and you've hidden.
ببین جان، اگه مثلا اینجوری بعد من فکر می‌کنم اشتباه چیز شده، یعنی اگه بگیم احتمالاً اینه مشگرا ز انگژه حساب.
That's right. Yeah, that's what. So the aleph goes with raw, not with as.
این اشتباهه در
You get these kind of mistakes all the time in this
درسته.
text.
It's typical, yes.
So unto the perfume, the mesh,
آفرین.
from this other smelly substance, hesar, he protects it, or he sort of guards it. Hesar. Then we get parehod hod, bezire par e okab. Now the hod is a noble bird. It has its little crest, you know, but it's not as powerful as the okab. And if it flies around by itself, some other bird could catch it easily. But if it flies under him, gui is the ball, board. It wins.
تو فارسی این خیلی مهمه بدونی. تو فارسی ما مثلا این اصطلاح رو با این اصطلاحات زیادی ما تو فارسی داریم، تو همین بخشی که داریم میخونیم ما تو فارسی برای اینکه میگیم این گوی رو اینجوری استفاده میکنیم، به کار میبریم، میگیم مثلا میگیم گوی سبقت را ربود. این گوی سبقت را ربود این همونه، اینجا هم شتاب رو به جای سبقت استفاده کرده. آره.
And this is a common thing that's used as a metaphor.
درسته.
And it means literally a ball. It could be from polo playing, or and he carries off the ball as Parandegon for his speed, because he's flying under the eagle and he doesn't get attacked or.
تشبیه زیبایی هم هست.
Then Fat I man nayan benam nam varan.
نیند بد باشه.
نیند
یعنی نیستن.
Yeah, نیند. So people who are aristocratic or who are famous, they're not safe from having an olfat. But the bichatar, the people who don't have any risk,
کار بی خطران است دیگه.
they're unimportant people.
کسی که خطر ریسک نمیکنه. کسی که ریسک نمیکنه. در واقع بی خطران اونایی که ریسک نمیکنن دیگه. اگه اونجوری ببینیمش.
So Bichatad is the work of people who aren't very significant or important. They're low people. And now we're into this kind of little wisdom type sayings. We're not really playing around with the meaning of Sochan. it continues like this to the end, but we can read some more of this.
Okay.
It's مرغ زیرک به جستجوی طعام, who's seeking food, clever bird. He's clever, but when he's seeking food, he's not so clever because
به دو پای افتاد.
he falls into the trap
درسته.
because he's hungry. He's not being his usual clever self.
همین کرد گفتم.
With both feet, meaning really he gets trapped in there.
درسته. کاملا
And
ادام
then
میفته.
هر کجا چون زمین شکم خار است. And I don't know whether this هر کجا means every place or every person because
من
in
فکر کنم هر
Ferdowsi,
که هست.
yeah,
که همون
like in
کجا.
Ferdowsi,
آره این هم
کجا
کار
که.
کرده. آره.
هر کجا چون
هر که.
زمین. So any person who, like the earth, is a shekam khari, that means a person who's a glutton, who eats too much.
درسته.
And why is the earth shekam khari? Because it eats us all. We all die, we go back to the earth, all things that grow, all people.
تو فارسی ما بهش میگیم شکمو. شکمو کسیه که شکم.
Big stomach.
آره شکمو.
Sibilu.
سیبیلو شکمو. بعد ما بختیاری ها کمو هم میگیم. کم همون شکم باز. کمو یعنی همون شکمو.
So, even in modern Greek, there's an u ending,
Okay.
but it tends to mean a female who has, like you say, she's a pordalu, she farts all the time. And the u means it's a characteristic thing she does.
Okay. I didn't know
But I
that.
don't know what this
Interesting.
comes from. But anyway, then, so the second half is as zamin khord, from the earth, he had koja in the beginning, who eats too much. From the earth, as zamin خورده شکمواری.
اگه میشه بخونیمش از زمین خورد او شکمواری است.
I
خورد
think the chord is his food.
به معنی فود هست اینجا.
His food, خورده او, is what? It is one stomach full only.
Okay.
Because, I mean, this is how to be wise. You want to say people who are rich and they have a lot and they eat too much and so on. But all it amounts to is one shekan var. That's har koja chun samin. Any person who, like the earth itself, is a glutton. As far as the earth is concerned, as zamin, the earth produces the food that he eats. So the zamin, as zamin, khordeu shekanvaris. It's not really much, and he's going to explain a little further, because the earth gets back everything that you eat. Either it comes out of your body, or then eventually you die. So the earth isn't losing anything. It's like one little amount. So bohame khordobor azin ambar, from the earth's storehouse, whatever you eat and carry away to eat later. Kam nayoyed jovi.
جوی به آخر کار.
Yeah, it's just one little,
جو.
yeah, seed, almost, a barley seed. Now, this Joe, the first time here, is a short. He's treating it as a short. Kan, nayo, yad, and we need now short, long, Joe, vi, be, all, chere, kar. But then when he puts Joe here, he uses it as a long. Jew, beju. Jew, beju, had, it's the first foot. Che, zu, setan, ni, bars. one harchezu setani, but whatever you take from it, yek be yek ham bedu rasoni baz. You send it back to him. So it's not as if you're taking it away and keeping it. And this sham varet, sham evar at, the at here is really like total. So if like a candle, chun taj zad boyad, you need a crown of gold. If you're someone who's ambitious and wants to be king and have a crown of gold, and then the metaphor is like a candle that burns, it has a crown of fire, gold. If you're like that, gerye as chande bishetar boya. You're going to have more tears than smiles. Necessary. Then, I don't know, you know this word mofadeh. It's a mythical kind of... you make it from rubies and pearls, supposedly. And it's based on the root farah, which is joy. So it should make you happy. But in fact, you could say that the grinding of the rubies is making blood, and of the door is breaking up the teeth. And it's a suffering going on rather than... So, Latin dor adodor, chande kam. Chande kam shod, de asto gerye por. Chande kam shod.
chande kam shod است و گریه پر.
Chande kam shod. The S, because we need the kam shod is our first foot, and we can't go to a long ast. So there may be a printing mistake here because we need something like shode ast, the extra syllable.
اگه اون هی باشه دیگه مشکلی نیست داره.
اگر یه پر.
درسته.
هر کسی را نهفت یا rihast. There is a hidden friend to everyone. Who's that? Well, he doesn't tell us right away. He says, Du seti hast, or du sedori hast. And who is it? Cheradas on Kazu Rasad Yori.
این قشنگ یه افتاده دوری.
Agar Cherad Dori. You have everything if you have wisdom or intelligence. Har kedad cherad. Har kedad cherad. Nadon adad. Whoever doesn't know how to give the justice of intelligence.
این نداد و داد رو گذاشته کنار هم جالبش کرده.
آدمی سو ratast o div nehad. He only looks like a human being. His real character is a div.
این هم استفاده زیاد داره تو ادبیات فارسی. آدمی صورت است و دیو نهاد.
هر کدام نداد وان فرشته که آدمی لقب است. So that person who's actually, he's really an angel, although we call him a human being, meaning he's so good. Ziragan do ziraki ajabast. They are actually very smart, and ziraki is an amazing thing. Now, we expect at the beginning to have a long syllable, short, long, long. But maybe 5% of the time, you can have two shorts followed by two longs at the beginning. That's what we have here. So we have dad. Dar, a, dara, zal,